This is my pick of gifts for filmmakers and photographers. Hopefully there's something in there that you'll find useful. I've tried to choose things which will be available in most places around the world, I think. So if you can't find these, probably find an equivalent. Range of prices, some of them are going to be really inexpensive, some of them do get a little bit more expensive, but we're in an expensive business here, so I've tried to be sensible, but see how that goes. If you have any other suggestions, drop them down in the comments below. I'm sure that everyone's really grateful for any niche tips that you can give us. So without further ado, let's jump in. We've got these handy little straps from Trilancer. They are elasticated, they've got a grippy rubber silicone surface on one side, they've got Velcro on there as well, and you can pretty much strap anything to anything else. I only bought them to sort out some cabling around my home office, and I immediately, as soon as I tried them out, immediately bought more because they are so useful. I use them for all kinds of things. We use them on set, use them for attaching batteries to stands or to tripods. You can get a phone, look at this, you can get your phone and you can put it onto, okay, we want to put our phone on this combo stand. Is it possible to put a phone on a combo stand with a Trilancer strap? Let's put that on there, stick that around, thread it through, pull it tight, and then it's on. And you might say, well, it's resting on there, but actually we can move this all the way up to the top and it's not going to go anywhere. Super handy, and we use them every single day. This one's really simple, getting a little bit more expensive, a multi-tool. There are cheap options out there. I quite like the Leatherman Micra. It has served me well. I get them for like my kids, get them for people at work. They are awesome. They're not the most fully featured multi-tool available. You can get much bigger tools, but they are pocketable. They can go in a tiny pocket. You can carry them around all the time. You don't think about it, and then when you need it, it's there. Comes with a good selection of tools. Again, not the most comprehensive, a little bit more expensive as a present, but it's a lovely piece of kit, and if you take care of it, it'll last for absolute years. Doesn't have to be a Leatherman, can be other tools. Just make sure you read some reviews and make sure that it's actually a quality piece, because very little point in getting one of these if it's going to break or if it's going to be really difficult to use. Next up, we've got something which is going to be super useful for glasses wearers as well as camera enthusiasts. It's going to be this little fella just here, a spud, or spuds. Not sure how you say it. Essentially, it's a neoprene pocket that contains a microfiber cloth. I have several of these. I keep them for different purposes, like screens on devices, camera lenses, and also my glasses. I tend to try and keep them as separate, so I don't use the glasses one for the camera lenses because, the glasses are going to be in your face. They're going to tend to pick up sort of grease from your face and that kind of thing, or your hands. So having a separate one for your lenses is recommended. I would get 1 or 2 or 3 of these as little presents. They're awesome, stocking fillers, relatively inexpensive, and they're always going to need them, the filmmakers. So yeah, can't go wrong with a spud. Now this one is a little bit like the multi-tool, but is more filmmaker specific. This comes from SmallRig. It is a tiny little tool which has loads of different, very useful attachments in it. So you've got a big flat head just there to do up any of your tripod plates. You have various Phillips heads, common Allen key sizes, and then some more larger Allen key sizes on this side. So it is actually a really useful little thing to have just in your camera bag. Thoroughly recommend getting one. You can also store, don't know if it'll focus on that, along the side some of your quarter 20. So you're always going to have a spare screw for your tripod plate or whatever else you're trying to attach. This one is going to come in cheaper than, say, a Leatherman multi-tool, and it is also filmmaker specific, so it'll perhaps seem a little bit more thoughtful, even though multi-tool is really nice. But yeah, that's just another option for you, something which fulfills a very similar purpose. This next one's a little bit odd, and maybe it's just me, but I always find it really difficult to drink water when I'm out on shoots. Primarily because I don't carry around a big water bottle, or if I do, I leave it back in the car, or I leave it in my bag. So what I've taken to doing is carrying a hip flask. Hip flasks are awesome because they're super thin. The camera's probably not going to focus on it, but that means that I can always have this really discreetly by me. And it's only discreet up until the point that you drink out of it. Once you drink out of it, everyone just looks at you and goes, "You got a hip flask?" But
I think that it's wicked because it'll go in my pocket, it'll go really slowly in the side pocket of a bag without really taking up too much room. It's not as much water as you'd want to drink in a day probably. You're probably going to want to top it up a little bit. But if you are like me and you find it really hard to actually drink any water at all, then having a hip flask is a really good solution. And you can get some that look really cool that have like little cups and stuff that go with them, and yeah, you can really get into it. So hip flask is the way of the future. This one is hard to show you because it's usually on the bottom of the camera I'm using just here. It is the Manfrotto MP3 BK. Now what this is a tiny, absolutely microscopic tripod which sits on the bottom of your camera, permanently attached, and then you just unfold out the three legs. It is a tripod after all. And you have this permanently attached solution to placing your camera down and allowing you to position it, angle it. There are a couple of drawbacks to this as an approach, namely that it doesn't give you any extra height, and it is going to require you to take it off if you're going to attach it to other things. But I find it really cool to have on the bottom of this camera, which I carry around and do these little bits to camera with. It's better for me than having something larger, like a GorillaPod, say, attached, because that increases the bulk. It means I'm less likely to take this with me. This is a far more pocketable affair. And if you want to take it off, you just fold it up. You can slip it into any pocket. You can put it into your bag. It's really sturdy, doesn't have much weight, doesn't have much bulk. It has options for how you actually do mount it. So if your camera is heavier on one side, you can choose to mount in one of the other positions, indeed as I have just there. It's something I wouldn't want to be without. It makes the camera way more useful for me, and I'm sure that whoever you get it for is going to find some fun uses for it as well.
I'm aware that this video is a little bit of a cliche, you know, the top 10 picks kind of thing, my EDC. I don't think I even picked 10, but hopefully it's been useful. If you did enjoy it, then I am, of course, keen to hear. Drop the comments below, because I will make other videos in a similar vein. You know, we go out and we do different shoots, and those different shoots require different bits of equipment. And I'm not talking about like the cameras and the big expensive things. I mean, that's a given. But when we're doing something, say, in a cold environment, we will have specific things that aren't necessarily super expensive, but do help us to function in that environment. So if you are interested in seeing more of these videos, do tell me. And like I say, drop the comments below, have a conversation, and have a great Christmas.